Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic Magazine, and of course with us tonight, as promised, Mike Decker of Montreal's BornBroken. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. You? How's it hanging? Good?
That's frickin' awesome, man. This year, there's been so much great frickin' metal coming out this year. It's like the tides have finally turned.
Yes. I'm very, very happy to see that that metal is finally becoming back as part of the norm and not as part of the underground, but we're actually taking strides and moving forward.
Absolutely, and you guys are a part of that. You know, great. There's a great metal scene in Canada that a lot of people overlook, but you know, you guys are going to make some real noise with this debut album. But before we get to that, by way of introduction, give us a little backstory on BornBroken.
All right. Well, I just want to just apologize for the noise. I'm outside of the heavy MTL finals here at the Corona Theatre in downtown Montreal, so I'm just a little bit of noise as I'm standing here outside on the corner. Hey, what's up, man? How are you, man? Good? Good. You too. Hey, sorry, man. That was the singer of Reanimator.
Nice.
There's tons of local bands here tonight, man. Really, really crazy. It's a great scene. We started about, to get back to the question, we started about 4 years ago. Basically, Simon and Tommy, Tommy's the bassist and Simon's the other guitarist, we're just basically jamming, and they had a sort of temp singer who was a friend of mine. Now, I wasn't really playing there anymore, and they heard about me. We got together, and we all just sort of gelled. So we started to play a bit more, went through a couple of drummer changes, singer changes, this and that, and got in the studio about 2010. And it took basically 2 years to get this album out. So that's really basically the lowdown. A lot of practicing, a lot of making sure it's right, you know, and that's basically it.
Now, for you personally, what was the catalyst or moment of epiphany, if you will, that sort of propelled you into a life in music?
I think it was being very, very young and going through my parents' records and seeing like Supertramp and Kiss, Destroyer, and all this, and just looking at that and being like awed and like wowed by just the I don't know, I guess just the fact about being a rock star and playing in front of thousands of people and stuff like that, which isn't really happening, but it's the allure of that, you know.
Right.
So I started playing very, very young and just kept on playing, you know.
Now, the first influence listed on your guys' Facebook page by the band is Slayer. A couple weeks ago, we lost, of course, Jeff Hanneman from Slayer. How did he impact you as a guitar player?
Yeah, well, actually, Slayer really impacted me a lot. South of Heaven and basically Rain and Blood were very, very big, influential albums to me. One of the terms that I always say is, let the eternal flame of Slayer burn deep inside your soul. And it's sort of my trademark saying, because if it isn't, I think they basically every band owes something to Slayer, because they were one of the ones that first really started mixing punk and metal and thrash and all that together, you know what I mean, and making this really aggressive sound, no holds barred, just let it loose. So I think that was a really, really big thing for me. And to hear that he died at a young age was kind of a shocker, you know. But that's what living the life sort of does, right? You know what I mean? You die from cirrhosis, so that's the road, you know. Drinking, partying. It does take a toll on you.
So on a side note, as a Slayer fan, you know, Jeff's gone, of course, and now Dave Lombardo's out of the band. Paul Bostoff is coming back on drums. Tom's constantly got the back problems. Kerry's actually getting ready to do a tour as Slayer with him as the only original member over in Europe. Well, do you think it's time for Slayer to, out of respect, put the band down, or do you think they should continue on with just one or two original members?
You know what? That's a hard question. Are they going to come up with new material, or are they just going to be doing like the Rolling Stones and just basically touring for the sake of touring? You know, that's something that I think that if you're a band, you always got to be constantly coming up with new material, especially if you're touring. Not just going out and doing like the last tour, and keep on doing it. So if they're going to come out with new material and stuff, all the power to them. I think it's the right thing to do to keep the name of Slayer alive, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, well, let's get back to talking about BornBroken, the debut album.
Yeah, sure.
The Healing Powers of Hate will be released June 4th. First off, explain the title from your perspective.
Okay, The Healing Powers of Hate. It's basically, we're really surrounded with a lot of. I'm sorry for the cars and stuff. I'm surrounded, or we're surrounded now in the world with all, with all the social media and TV and stuff. Yeah, you basically turn on the TV or this or that, and the only thing you see is bad news. Very, very rare now that you see something good on the news, and you get a lot of voices basically talking to you, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? Is this what I should be doing? What should I be doing in life? Is my life going to mean something? So basically, it's trying to take whatever there is in the world that's hateful and hurtful, and trying to do something positive there with it. Trying to get some sort of positive message out of the hate. That's what sort of the whole thing is. But we basically turned The Healing Powers of Hate into a concept album about one man's turmoil of the voices inside of his head, and whether or not he knows whether he's doing the right or wrong thing. And that's sort of the whole meaning behind the album.
Nice. Now, when I first listened to the record, the one word that kept coming to mind is relentless. It just never gives up. It's just driving, brutal, pulverizing. It was relentless.
Yeah, I like grooving. It's always been something of mine. I've always liked to have music that had a groove to it. Blast beats for me are really cool, but they're not the be-all, end-all of a song. I find if you can't have music that you can actually just play in your car or play in the background, then it's not, for me, the type of band that I want to be in or be portrayed as. So a lot of our music drives, pushes, you know what I mean? A lot of double bass, a lot of good straightforward beats, a lot of good staccato chugging, and that's what I really like to do.
Well, and you can really hear some of those influences. We talked about Slayer. There's certainly that groove of Pantera in there, some Testament, or even before that, early Legacy. There's a whole lot of that stuff going on in there, and it's great to see a band that can be as heavy as you guys are, as heavy as a band like a Slayer or Pantera, but still have the melody in there. And that's what I think has been missing from metal for like the last 15, 20 years, is that sense of melody. Everybody felt like they had to strip that out to be heavy.
Yeah, like they just had to strip it out and just go chug, chug, chug type of thing, like with all the deathcore bands and stuff.
Right.
You know what? I love that too, though. I love the raw chugs. Like I don't know if you remember a band called Exhorder.
Yes.
And yeah, well, when The Law came out, that was like an ultimate album to me. That was like the pre-Pantera. So if you say we sound like Pantera, I would say I sound more like Exhorder, because that's where I come from. Those are my roots. Exhorder, Early Testament, stuff like that. Going with Invocator and a lot of other stuff too. So going back to like the chugging part, that's where I basically get a lot of my influences from.
How does the songwriting process work in BornBroken?
You know what? Because I guess I'm one of the older members there in the band, and I've been doing this for a long time. I used to basically write all the material for like a lot of my past bands and stuff, and come into practice and say, okay, this is what we're going to play. With this is the first album that I'm actually not singing on, that I actually took a step back and just wanted to play and solo on, so I could focus more on the melody and stuff. And we sort of get together in the jam spot, me and Simon, and usually Joe, or back then it was Billy, our old drummer, and we would just jam. And sort of what comes up, and then once we have a sort of rough basis there of a riff, I'll either take it home or fix it or adjust it. But a lot of the fine-tuning is actually done in studio. I've always been that way, in studio, going in and redefining the songs, adding all the final touches to them, even possibly changing up the whole arrangement of the song in studio, or the way that I do it now.
The way you're doing it, it sounds the more organic way. You actually get in there and play together and sort of develop the ideas that way, instead of everything's all computerized, throw a riff down and, copy and paste, and there's nothing, there's no life in it. You guys still breathe life into the way you're creating it.
Yeah, well, you kind of basically have to. Well, I feel like, in my opinion, music has to groove, right? It has to have a feeling. It has to have an emotion. and you can't get an emotion by putting Lego blocks together. You get a beautiful picture, you get a beautiful color, you get a solid structure, but you don't get that feel. You don't get that emotion. You don't get that feeling from the song where it's like, like it's just, that's just heavy. And me, it's trying to find the proper hook. You know what I mean? Like, it may sound old school or like a radio business type of thing, but if a song doesn't have a hook, it's not a song. You know what I mean? It's got to have that key moment that people are going to remember and want to listen to again. So that's another point where, like, you jam and you know, it's that first time that riff grabs you. It's like, oh, that's it. And then you work around that. And then you got somewhat of a structure to work with, but it keeps on going and keeps on going, you know, even in the studio.
Absolutely. And this album is packed with great songs, and I'm going to talk about a few of them just real quick. You can give me... one of the things that struck me was when I was listening to Reborn from the Ashes, you have that piano outro, sort of eerie and haunting at the end. Whose idea was that?
I've always been a big King Diamond fan, and I've always, like, even going back to Exhorder again, bringing the little child kind of like piano influences. It's like whenever you see a horror movie, what's always the most eeriest thing? Seeing a child. You know what I mean? Seeing that eerie child figure or that eerie sound, or like that little kid saying "Mommy" in the background. That's always has sent chills through my spine and stuff. So having that little piano there at the end, it's eerie, but it brings back the innocence of the whole thing, because that song "Reborn from the Ashes" is basically our main character is being reborn from all of his hate. It's like the battle, and he's actually finally realizing before the final track, "Healing Powers of Hate," what has happened to him throughout the whole album. So that's sort of his cleansing part, and that's why we have that little piano part. After the battle, you see the smoke falling down, if you can sort of put an image to it. You see the smoke, you know what I mean, the rubble.
Right.
And out from the ashes comes this little piano, and it's the only thing with, like, broken keys. So, of course, you're not going to have a huge organ orchestra sound. You're going to have this really little simple sound, you know what I mean, that still gives melody, you know?
And that's what sets a lot of bands apart, is when you have those, I call them little moments of genius that really bring it all together. It was like the song was great, but by adding that at the end, you just put that perfect flourish on it to bring it home.
Well, I thank you.
So,
I appreciate that.
It has begun. What has begun?
It has begun. That's the beginning of the war, basically. So that's when it's all about to break loose. It's basically the flip side of the fairy tale. It's where his voices start to really take over, and that's when the battle inside of his head, you really don't know the reality. It's kind of the dream sequence in the album, you know what I mean, where everybody thinks they're right, and no way, everybody's wrong, and it's just all hell is going to break loose. And to have all going to break loose, you got to have some Sepultura influence there, and that's just because they're the masters of that. And so that's basically where that song kind of came up. Again, it was I think it was one of the last ones that we actually wrote, and that's why it has a different feel than the rest of the album. And it just kind of fell together, and that's where we get a lot of the Slayer sound too, with like riding on the ride cymbal, you know, very, very Rain and Blood style.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I have to share this story with you, because we've all had those days, and I was driving to work this morning, and everyone was driving like an asshole. One guy was so busy texting, he almost drove into me, and at that moment, Anger of the Day was playing, and it seemed perfectly fitting.
Yeah. That's the song that everyone's gonna, when you have your bad day, this is it. Because I used to do a thing where I used to wake up in the morning, and the first thing I thought of was my word of the day. So whatever it was, and that was my word of the day, and I tried to figure out what it was, what it meant, why I thought of that. And for a while there, I was always waking up for some reason angry, and it just felt right, and it worked for the whole process there. The CD, Anger of the Day, not only does it sound cool, but it works for the concept there of the album. It just tops it off, you know what I mean? He has Can't Quiet the Riot, he's trying to get the voices out of his head, old news, he's looking at the TV, it's always the same stuff, just like I was saying, same thing. Anger of the Day, his day just goes to hell. You know what I mean? And everything pisses them off. And it's just, you know what? Who's ever standing in front of them, watch out, because you're going to be the target.
Yeah, and literally that was sort of that day that I had, and it was just so ironic that I was listening to that today. I was going to be talking to you tonight, so I thought I had to share that. So a couple more quick questions before we get out of here.
Yeah, sure.
Tell us about the first single, Control, because Control's sort of an ephemeral concept, because in reality we really have so little of it.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's what the song is. The song is we don't have control. I didn't call it Lose Control or whatever else. I called it Control. And the whole album is very subjective. We didn't give our character a name. We sort of gave him a face a bit because we have a comic book included in the CD and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you received the full package or if you just received the demo there, but the full CD acts as a 28-page comic book. And it's sort of... That's where our character sort of loses control, and you actually see it depicting there in the comic book. It's where his brain and his body is being separated apart from him, and you do not know what's right or wrong. And that's the whole point of it. You do not have control. No one has control. We're all just basically walking the earth, thinking we have control, thinking we control stuff, and we actually have no control over it, nothing.
Well, and
we actually don't even have control when we go to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and you just mentioned something else, too, I want to touch on real quick before we get out of here, because most bands, when they put out their debut album, especially in this economy, in this music industry, it's as streamlined as it can be because of money. And you guys have really put everything into this. Great, not just great production on the music, but beautiful artwork, the comic and everything, just this whole massive package for a debut album in what is basically an underground music genre these days.
When you get married, do you put everything you possibly could into getting married?
And then I give half of it away in the divorce.
Well, you know what? I'm hoping not to get divorced from this band. But you know what? You give everything that you possibly can. And if you do not give everything you possibly can every single time that you're on stage or that you're putting out a song or that you're putting out a product, what does that make you? What does that make me? This is my life. This is my dream. This is my passion. I live, I eat, breathe, I shit music. And if I can't reflect that in my product, then what do I think of myself? So I have to make sure, along with the band, that we put out the best possible product all the time, especially in this cutthroat market now. If we don't try and stand up and rise above, hear the cry, the broken shall rise, is our basically theme motto, you know what I mean, our war chant. If we can't do that, then what are we? We're just another band in the mix. Conviction
is very important in this day and age.
Yes.
Awesome. Mike Decker, BornBroken from Montreal. The debut album, of course, coming out on June 4th, The Healing Powers of Hate. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. We look forward to hearing the full album all over the radio, and of course on Metalholic Radio you'll hear it as well. And hopefully you'll get down here to the States for a tour so we can see you live.
Yeah, we're hoping to do that soon. Metal up, horns up. I'm about to go see some kick-ass Montreal metal now, tearing it up.